One thing is essential. To accelerate decisions, you need innovation that fits the mission. We innovate from AI to zero trust. We integrate using open APIs that you control. We automate with smart solutions so warfighters know and act faster. Your mission, accelerated. Tomorrow's challenges, anticipated. Win faster with Booz Allen.
Hello and welcome to the Emerging Tech Horizons podcast. I'm Arun Serafin, Executive Director of NDIA's Emerging Technologies Institute. The 2023 Emerging Technologies for Defense Conference and Exhibition was a great event, I say so myself. It focused on a rapid delivery of new capabilities to warfighters with an emphasis on how emerging technologies are going to shape the future of national defense. Key discussions at last year's event were on things like counter-UAS strategies and contested logistics. And one of our great partners in putting together that event was our guest today, Undersecretary Heidi Shyu, who's the Undersecretary for Research and Engineering in the Office of the Secretary of Defense. Thanks for joining us today, Ms. Shyu.
Thank you so much, Arun. It's always great to be together with you. So thank you so much for hosting this.
So I talked about what we did last year at the 2023 event, and people might remember that it was an event where you spoke and Dr. LaPlante spoke and Secretary Hicks spoke, and it's actually the place where she rolled out the Replicator Initiative. But today we're here to talk about the 2024 conference, which I assure everyone is even bigger and better than ever. It's going to be held August 7th through 9th at the Washington, D.C. Convention Center. So we've moved up into a larger venue, anticipating an even greater interest in the event. The event is going to continue those conversations we had in last year's event, and try to bring together in a different way government, defense industry, commercial industry, and academia to have a discussion, not so much what is the science underlying emerging technologies, but really talking about which emerging technologies are really going to shape the future, and how can government and industry partner together to move things more rapidly through prototyping into production and operational use. So what you'll see there is those representatives from government, including Ms. Shyu and her team, Dr. LaPlante and his team, those representatives from the operational community, including a great presence this year from U.S. European Command, EUCOM, and AFRICOM, and as well as a lot of industry presence. Multiple NDIA divisions are working with us closely to focus in on how to shape this agenda and talk about those emerging technologies that are most important and those mission sets that are most important. And just mentioning a couple of those mission sets, we're going to be talking about JADC2, interoperability kinds of things. We're going to be talking about counter-UAS. We're going to be talking about contested logistics. We're going to be talking about working, and the new twist here is how to work with allies and partners in driving emerging technologies. And so, today, Ms. Shyu, I was hoping I could talk to you a little bit about the conference and your expectations for it, and what you think your team would like to hear from industry there, but also, reflect on the fact that you've been now in the position of Undersecretary for about 3 years. And so I just wanted to get a chance to reflect on that a little. So let's start there first. You are the CTO of the department, and you've been in this position now for 3 years, and you come to it from a very interesting and extensive background. Of course, you have a technical academic background and then extensive work in industry, but you were also the Army Service Acquisition Executive before you came to this position. So, tell us a little bit about that industry experience and that previous acquisition experience, and how that shapes how you've tried to think about this issue of moving technologies quickly into production.
Certainly gave me a unique perspective, because I certainly have gone from R&D side in industry, in doing Air Force Research Lab projects, right? And all the way to developing a major program, right? And accelerating technology into EMD, into fielding. Okay, so I understand the entire life cycle from the industry side. Then coming to the government, it gave you the completely different perspective is, I will say, how do we move a program through various stages of maturity, right? And what are all the gates that, in essence, that you have to go through to mature the program to get it into the hands of the warfighter. So having that intersection of visibility is incredibly important. It also probably gives me a unique perspective to understand the needs of industry as well as the needs of the government, right? You can speak the language on both sides, right? So that was something that was very important. As a matter of fact, that's one of the reasons Dr. Ash Carter called me personally and said, you know, Heidi, you bring a perspective because you've had a foot in both camps. You understand how industry works, you understand how the government works, and you provide a unique perspective in both bubbles, right? So that's why he asked me to come join this administration.
Right. And you know, that's that bridge that you've worked on and helped to build and crossed or not crossed in different times and roles in your career. That's the bridge that we're going to be talking about, I think, it collectively at the conference. So when you think about the priorities now of your office in that space of moving things from technology development into production, what are some of the high priority efforts that you've got going on that you'd like to talk about?
Well, I tell you, there's so many things that's ongoing. I'll hit upon what I try to focus on. As you well know, there's multiple, we call it multiple valleys of death, right? Throughout the life cycle of technology, from basic research into getting the hands of the warfighter, right? Each technology has traversed through. So what we're trying to do is make sure that all these valleys, there are opportunities to build bridges, okay? So I think what's important is understanding what are the things we can do, nurturing S&T from 6.1 to 6.3, and then build a bridge to prototyping. This is what we're doing in rapid prototyping. This is what we're, beyond the rapid prototyping piece, how can we rapidly test it out, right? And provide feedback directly to the designers, to the companies, because they don't know how to iterate the design to make it better if you don't share that insight with them, right?
Right, and there's this chain of custody of a good technology before it gets used, and you know, that process of linking together the tech developer, maybe at the lab or the small business, to the large system integrator and the PEO, to the sustainer and the user, that whole chain is something that, you know, you've got to start thinking about early on.
That's exactly it. You know, I think this is the beauty of the radar activity that was initiated almost 3 years ago now, right? The Rapid Defense Experimentation Reserve, which DepSecDef initiated. And what we're doing there is taking prototypes, identifying prototypes that meets a warfighting need, right? And that's the critical point. We're looking at what are the future joint warfighting needs. And from that, we're looking at, are there a set of prototypes can fulfill some of these needs? Then we have the ability to rapidly pull it into experimentation. And we're utilizing users. We're utilizing National Guard folks to literally train them how to utilize these prototypes and provide us direct feedback. And then for the feedback, literally, we provide the exact same feedback to the contractors, okay? And from that, it goes to the next piece. Does it have military utility or not, right? So we take it to the next step, namely an actual exercise, right? Either it is Northern Edge or Valiant Shield, wherever, we'll take it to the actual exercise and test out this prototype some more. If it passes through that and demonstrate a military utility, we can rapidly take it to a 4-star decision board to say, here's a set of stuff that's thoroughly tested out. in a relevant environment, it is ready to transition into rapid production.
Yeah, we're going to try to bring that voice of the warfighter and the system integrator into the conference. Admiral Grady, the Vice Chief of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, is going to speak. We'll have representation from both UCOM and AFRICOM at the event, as well as a number of service PEOs and Fourth Estate program offices, so OSD program offices, who represent the customers. But I think it's also, your team's going to be there talking about programs like Raider and the other efforts that help move technologies along. The other one I wanted to tap into is, there's a Raider program, but there's also an APFIT program. And that's an acronym. I don't know if you want to spell it out for the audience here, but it's really on the procurement side, right?
Absolutely. That's another bridge that we're trying to build across. Namely, once you demonstrated a prototype, you have to now rapidly get into production, right? And due to our budgeting process, it doesn't always necessarily line up, right? So the ACFIT funding is to accelerate procurement and fielding of innovative technologies, okay? It's a pot of money that we have. So 2 years ago, we received $100 million from Congress, which we're very happy. And then last year, we received $150 million. And this year, we received $300 million. So what we have done with this pot of money is identify small companies that can deliver capabilities that the services want, but they don't want to wait for 2 years to get this product, right? So this literally accelerated capability delivery by 2 years. And we have helped about, so the first year we funded 10 companies. Second year, we funded 11 companies. And this year, because there's more money, we're able to fund 17 companies that receive between $10 to $23 million. So it's a huge benefit to small companies.
Yeah, and what we're looking for at the event is, those companies to have an opportunity to honestly brag about some of these successes, right? We're looking to say the department is trying to establish programs understanding the need for speed and money and understanding the need for connections to customers. And here are opportunities for industry to engage to get those kinds of things delivered. So we're really looking forward to that. The other piece that's within your portfolio that's always been viewed as a thing that slows things down, and I may have heard you testify to this effect when I was on the Hill, is the testing process. And so one of the panels that we're working on right now is talking about how you're doing your best to increase the responsiveness and speed of the testing process. I don't know if you've got thoughts on that as well.
Absolutely. I think kudos to you for pulling together how do we rapidly do development tests. So we're changing the construct because a lot of our systems now are really software driven. And software driven, and we have programs now that literally drop the software when they're doing development. They drop the software to the customer every single night. So you're continuously testing as you're doing development. And it's huge, right? Rather than, let me finish development, throw it over the fence, then test it, right? And find all these errors, then you got to go back and try to patch things up. It's so much more streamlined now.
Yeah, and it's amazing the systems and infrastructure and opportunities now for companies to get access to ranges more quickly, the increased flight test opportunities, even in things like hypersonics, the increased opportunities to test out your software, even for cybersecurity kinds of issues. And all of those programs are, there's a set of them managed under your office, under the Test Resource Management Center, for example. And so those kinds of opportunities, I think we'll try to show off at the conference as well. But we do all of this development of technology for missions to respond to the warfighters, like you were saying earlier. And so, through the voice of the NDIA divisions, there's been a couple of areas that they'd really like us to focus on. So I just want to ask you about a couple of them. One is, there's a program out there called JADC2, which is the effort to better network all of our sensors and all of our platforms and all of our weapons on the battlefield. It's a joint all-domain command and control framework. And people think of that as not often as a technology problem or an S&T issue, but it turns out there are a lot of technical underpinnings to make this work. So you talk about some of the efforts that you have going on to sort of enable JADC2 as a vision.
Yeah, I think important aspect of that is resilient communications. You want to have multiple pathways. It's not going to work if you have one mode to communicate and your adversary jams that particular mode, right? So what we're truly working on is building the diversity of resilient communication from basically seafloor to space. And enable, if one fails, you just immediately switch over to another. You've got the diversity, and that's what's going to drive the robustness of JADC2.
Yeah, so there'll be some discussion of the underpinnings, the interoperability underpinnings, the resilient communications, and discussion of things like your future G programs that will all support these kinds of efforts to get that network system of systems together. The NDIA community has heard strongly, especially from your counterpart, Dr. LaPlante, and the services about the importance of counter-UAS as a mission. And so, you know, we've heard both UAS and counter-UAS being very important. And so that's going to be a focus area. So what are some of your thoughts, and what do you see as promising venues for developing counter-UAS capabilities?
Well, I think the number one, the first thing is we have to have a modular architecture to start out with. So this way you can add capabilities very rapidly, because a threat is evolving every single week. So it's not like your glacial method, I'm going to develop something, test it to death, then take it out to field. And by the time you use it, the threat has changed, right? So the underlying premise is we have to start out with a modular architecture. Then we can add different sensors for detection and different ways of countering it, either kinetic or non-kinetic. So the modularity of the approach is extremely important.
Yeah, so at the conference, you know, we're working hard on trying to put together a great program. We've already got lined up some of the major keynote speakers, including yourself and Undersecretary LaPlante, but also Deputy Secretary Hicks will be speaking again. Admiral Grady, like I mentioned, the DIU director, Doug Beck, will be speaking. We're going to have most, if not all, of the service acquisition executives. We're planning to have the service undersecretaries as well. In addition to those great keynotes, plus industry keynotes as well, there'll be breakout tracks in some of the areas we're talking about. Again, the focus being how to move technologies more quickly into the field. And then there's an opportunity for companies to show off and give technical presentations on their success stories. So there will definitely be technical presentations and posters for the real engineers in the crowd who want to see some of the real work that's going on. But the other thing about this event that's slightly different is that we're doing it completely unclassified. It's going to be at the convention center, and it's completely unclassified. And I want to talk about two groups that are now part of this defense innovation ecosystem and how you're thinking about working with them. First is, we'll call it Silicon Valley. Small commercial firms, a lot of software AI firms, funded sometimes by private capital or Silicon Valley VCs, you know, and how can they work with your office and get their technologies into this system?
Well, I'll say we work regularly with commercial and non-traditional vendors, I call it that way, right? So my office, and not just me personally, first of all, I have a ton of industry engagements. I'm always out there engaging with industry, okay? And each one of my principal directors, because they have a specialty in their domain, they engage with customers as well. So for example, my trusted AI and autonomy expert, Dr. Kim Sablon. She meets with all the different AI companies to figure out what they're doing, right? Same with my director energy, my hypersonics. So all of my principal directors, I'm sure, will be at this conference talking to industry, okay? And the other thing that's really important is we engage, not only do we engage with folks knocking on our door, but also we engage at conferences. We go around to different booths to talk about potential new entrants, and we vector them to the right offices.
Yeah, we've got some cool pictures of you wearing VR goggles or something like that from last time. Yeah, looked like you were having fun.
Right.
Yeah, so the doing this at the unclassified level gives you a chance to at least have those first conversations and expose to some of these companies and their investors. This is legitimately an opportunity for you to bring your technologies. You know, we are, as the Department of Defense, a legitimate and addressable market that it's worth trying to go after. And I think events like this give you the opportunity to present that face to a community that can be very skeptical sometimes about defense as a market.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I know that's sort of like, this is a common theme that I hear, except when I engage with companies, I don't hear that. Okay. I hear a very different story. They are looking to engage with us. Okay. I think I presented certainly this week at the conference a number of new entrants that's into our S&T network, right? Basically, there's been a 53% increase in new entrants into our phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 cyber sitters in the last 3 years, right? And we could pull the same data via RDT&E. It's been an increase. So that's why I'm always puzzled when I hear news that nobody want to work with us. There's no shortage of people who want to work with us. I'm really puzzled.
I guess that's a good problem to have. And so then the other community, which I think appreciates us trying to have this conversation at the unclassified setting, is our allies and partners. And so we're gonna, you know, especially with the help of AFRICOM and EUCOM, invite in a lot of allies and partners to participate in the event and talk about their organizations as both as places that can partner with DoD and our defense industry, but also as potentially markets for our defense industry. And I know you did a lot of that in your experience as well and are doing it as well. So what's your role? What do you see as the role of allies and partners in shaping this defense innovation ecosystem?
First of all, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. I will talk about our foreign comparative test program, right? We have 98 active projects ongoing with 26 countries. So we're all about partnering with a multitude of different countries who believe in democracy, right? And if you have some of your own development that's mature, it can demonstrate a capability that we may be interested in, we literally make the connection with you with our service. Okay. So Army, Navy, Marine, Air Force, we connect them up and then they test it out in their actual experimentation. If it looks like this is really great, we're interested, we have direct authority to go into procurement. Okay? Bang, we go and say, you want it, we'll help you buy it. And here's the other thing is within 5 years, the company needs to have a leg in terms of continued production in the US. So as soon as they're awarded the procurement, they're already looking for a US partner, right? To be able to produce it onshore. So that's a piece I want to make sure I emphasize. So the allies and partners get a chance to hear this.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to them both hearing that message and then giving us the message of, you know, when we think about allied cooperation, of course, we need to think about the operational end of the spectrum and how we work together in case of a conflict. but we more need to think about how is this a unified and coalition built innovation base? How are we integrating our supply chains? How are we making use of those capabilities that some of our partners have that we may not have here fully fleshed out yet? And so I think that thinking about all of this as, developing that supply chain system for the future is a big aspect of what we hope to talk about at the event.
By the way, I should capture, I have so many project agreements ongoing with so many countries. That just shows all the kind of connectivity we have in the area of research and development. Last year alone, I traveled to 7 different countries. Okay.
And then I will say, last but not least, the last group that really appreciates this kind of open dialogue and ability to interact with everyone are our dear universities. And so, there will definitely be university presence. Your team that handles basic science in universities will be there as well. Talk about the role of universities in shaping what you need going forward.
Yeah, universities are the seed corn. There's the one that developed the nucleus of innovative ideas, which blossoms into products in the future, right? So it is so important to make sure that universities understand they have a critical part in our entire ecosystem. And I would tell you, recently I visited Purdue University. I spent a day there. I spent the next day at University of Illinois. And just last week, I went up to University of Maine. So I'm definitely plugging into what are the university research areas people are working on and trying to get them more connected into what we're doing.
Yeah, we're going to try to have a discussion at the event to talk about the universities, both as places that do innovative basic research and generate interesting intellectual property that might be useful to people. Certainly places that create the workforce of the future, but they can also be places that help small businesses with testing issues or engineering issues. And, and the conference might be a place to help make some of those kinds of connections between small businesses and the universities with some really interesting but hidden capabilities.
I just want to make one final comment that when I visited Purdue, I was very impressed. The fact that they have a lot of students and basically when they're working closely with us in terms of internship, they get clearances. So as an undergrad, right, getting them clears, they become a steady and accessible pipeline for us, right, when they graduate. So the other thing is, I think we do want to talk a little bit about our scholarship opportunities, our smart scholarship opportunities. We've granted like 1,400 smart scholars in the last 2.5 years. So
yeah, and those are scholarships that, DoD pays for you to go get your graduate degree or your degree. And then in return, you also get a job. You get to work in a lab or a test range and contribute. And usually people like it enough that they stay.
Absolutely. So I will try to weave that in as well. Okay?
So we're running out of time. I can't have you solve all the world's problems on this one podcast, but what if there is one thing you would really want to hear from industry, whether it's big, medium, small universities at this event, what would it be?
I would say, please come and participate at the conference and engage with the government folks that's there. Tell us what unique capabilities you guys have, right? Engage with us because opportunity grows, expand from the interaction. But we can't read your mind yet, so you've got to engage with us, okay? So I'm looking forward to this, and as usual, I'll make sure I block out plenty of time for engagements.
All right, we heard that. We're going to make you hold to that. With that, I really want to thank you, Ms. Shyu, for joining us again on the podcast. And we're looking forward to seeing you and your whole team at the conference. Again, the conference is going to be August 7th through 9th at the Washington, D.C. Convention Center. Visit our website for more information about the event. Right now, already open is the portal to submit abstracts. If you've got ideas for technical presentations or posters that your company or your university or your government lab would like to present. Of course, there's an exhibit hall for members who want to show off demo their technologies. There's also sponsorship opportunities. I also would love for people to visit ETI's website to sign up for our mailing list, register for our various webinars. We had a great one earlier this week while we're recording on Ms. Shyu's science and technology budget request, along with all of her colleagues from the services in DARPA. And please take a look at the website. We've also got our events and educational offerings, especially our successful Tech 101 series. So once again, thanks to Ms. Shyu for joining us. If you've enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with all of our latest content. A special thanks to Melanie Yu and Daniel Park for producing this podcast. Thanks so much for joining us on Emerging Tech Horizons.